All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how to start interacting with the interface here in Adobe Illustrator. All right, and so to start off, once you have that interface file opened up, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Now to zoom out, you just hit Control- on the keyboard. To zoom in, you hit Control+. There is a zoom tool, but those two functions are much easier. And the very first thing you're going to notice is we have a few different things going on here. We have a couple of boxes here on the side with instructions and some assets, but then we have this big white board here in the middle. It's got a pink header on it, but you'll notice that the whiteboard has a black line around it. That is called an artboard. And your artboard is where you want to have your actual work happening in Adobe Illustrator. When you save files, the artboard is what's going to actually show. And so you'll notice that we have an issue here, right? Our artboard doesn't cover all four of the circles for creating our emoji. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the artboard tool. The artboard tool, and you'll notice when we hover over any tool, you're going to get a little video of what it does, and it's going to give you a little description, and it's going to give you the shortcut key on how to jump to that tool quickly. For the artboard tool, it's probably easier just to click on it instead of doing Shift-O every time. But you can click on the artboard tool and then go ahead and just expand that out. It's going to give you your transform controls. That's what these squares are called, our transform controls. So we can drag that out so that now all of our emoji circles fit onto our artboard. And now we're ready to start working with the main tool in Adobe Illustrator, which is the selection tool. This is how we move things around. It's how we resize things. We use the selection tool a lot. And you'll see the shortcut key for that is the letter V, which is super helpful. And I will use that a lot in these videos. So just know, that's helpful. But again, any of these tools, you can hover over all the tools and it will tell you what it does along with showing you the shortcut key, and you can even click on the Learn More, and it will open up a web page that explains in more detail what that tool does. So now what we need to do is start grabbing assets and throwing them onto our emoji. But we're going to notice an issue right off the bat. When I drag something onto there, you're going to notice that it doesn't show up on the circle because it's behind it. So in Illustrator, Photoshop, programs like this, we have what are called layers. And that determines the order of things on the screen because the computer has to be able to know what's supposed to be on top, what's supposed to be underneath. It can't just guess for you. And so you have to be able to dictate, and you want to be able to dictate what goes where. And so one of the things that you're going to notice is I am in a little bit of a different layout than what you guys have. All right. So if I come up here to the top, you'll notice that I am in Essentials Classic. Now, by default, the default setting is the Essentials layout. And you'll see layers over here. We've got properties, all this kind of stuff. We want to go into Essentials Classic. I like working in that workspace. It gives us a little more options. It helps kind of lay stuff out for us a little better. And so Essentials Classic is what I like to work in. We don't need the text to vector graphic. It doesn't work very well. And so you can go ahead and just click on the little arrow next to that. And so now we're going to find our layers panel is actually going to be in this right-hand toolbar, and it's the two squares on top of each other sideways. And so now when we go to layers, we're going to see the instructions layer is locked. That's just so that we don't mess any of that up. We don't need that. But you're going to notice there's layer 1 and a little arrow next to it. And so I'm going to click on that arrow, and now I'm going to see my circles here for my emoji. And I'm going to grab those four. Just click on the first one, hold down Shift, and click on the last one. And I'm going to drag those so they show up underneath everything else. Okay. So let's keep dragging it down. And then I'm going to just drop it by having the blue line. So notice I have a little no symbol here right now, do not enter kind of thing. But if I drag it a little lower, I get that blue line. Now the circles are in the computer's mind underneath everything else. And so I can move that toolbar over. And now when I drag those eyes on, I'm able to put them and they're on the circle. Now, obviously, these are a little small for our emoji. And so you'll notice that we have transform controls on this shape as well. When we're in the selection tool, we can just simply click and drag to make things bigger or smaller. And you'll notice that as I do that, it just does all kinds of different wonky proportions to it. If I want to keep those proportions the same, so I want them to be the same as before, just hold down the Shift key, and that will keep the proportions the same so that they're consistent as you resize things, okay? And so now we can come in, we can, give the guy a mouth. Maybe we want to get, a little more dramatic with it. He's really yelling, right? So you can play around with this. You don't need to make a traditional emoji. You can, make something that's a little more fun. Maybe for this next one, we're going to use these closed eyes as eyebrows. Wow. Man, Mr. Roth, you just think of everything. I know. So, we'll come in here, and now my guy's got some eyebrows. No nose, but he's got eyebrows. All right. And it works. It's fine. All right. We'll talk about changing colors here in a second. So maybe I bring something else in. Another thing we can do with transform controls is you'll notice that when you kind of hover above a corner, over a corner, just off of the shape, instead of getting the thing to resize it, I get this little rotating arrow. When I do that, it's going to allow me to rotate a shape. Now, I can hold down the Shift key, and it will do that in like 45-degree increments. And so now I can really change the feel of these eyes. And so we can start kind of seeing what kinds of expressions we can make, right? We could turn and rotate the teeth too. Maybe they don't have top teeth. And then, we'll make one more. We'll do a crying one because we haven't done anything with tears. And so you can see how we can start bringing in all of these different elements to create something that could be kind of fun. All right. Doesn't really make sense, but we're just going to do it for the example. Okay. Now, as part of your assignment, one of the things I'm looking for is that you are going to actually go in and change the colors of the different objects on here. Okay. And so what we do for that is when you select an object, if you're in Essentials Classic, like I showed, you will be able to change the colors in 3 different spots. You'll see it at the top toolbar. You'll see it here in the Properties panel on the right-hand side, and you're going to see it on the left-hand side in this bigger box. 2 of these look the same. So if I click on this top toolbar, I'm going to have a bunch of predetermined swatches that I can use. Same here on this right-hand side. I have all these predetermined swatches. So if I find a color I like, that's great. But let's say I want to get a lighter orange. When I double click on the color swatch over here on this left-hand side, I can actually come in here and now I can choose any color. Okay, so I can go along the spectrum here, and then I can change the hue here. And so now I can change up that color. All right, maybe my crying guy, he's kind of blue, he's a little sad. And so we can start kind of playing around and finding that shade or that color that we want. And so that is how we change the fill color. So you'll notice in Illustrator and with vector graphics, we have a fill color, but we also have right next to that a stroke color, or right behind it in the case over here. And the stroke color is actually the color of the line. So instead of using a paint bucket, in order to fill stuff in, we choose a fill color for the shape that we've created, and then we also will choose the stroke color if we so choose, all right? And so I can click on that stroke color swatch and add a color that way. And you'll notice that I have a few other options. With fill, it's just the fill color, but with stroke, I can click on the word stroke and I get a bunch of stroke options in here. We can make a dashed line. We can choose, do we want the corners to be sharp or curved or different things like that. And we'll explore that throughout the term. But then we also can change the thickness of the stroke by just clicking up on the arrow keys next to the stroke properties. All right. And so you can start kind of playing around even more. So we talked about changing this dude's eyebrows. And so let's do that now. So we'll come in here, we'll make them more of a brown. And now he's got brown eyebrows. All right. And so you can kind of get a feel for the basics of Illustrator with what I've gone over right now. So you need to make 4 emoji. You need to change up the colors of your emoji, add some strokes to things, change just play around with stuff and just get a feel for like just how does this program work. Once you're done, we want to save things 2 times. One time to be able to submit it, and then one time also just so we have an extra backup on the cloud. So with your Adobe account, you have an Adobe Creative Cloud storage option. So to save something to the cloud, you're going to go to File, Save As. And if you get this box to pop up, you can just choose Save to Creative Cloud. If you ever end up checking this other box, I'll show you guys how you can toggle between the two. So when I go to Save to Cloud, I'm going to have this space, and it's just got all my different cloud work. You can see the same assignment's already been saved. We can also go back to on our computer. So if we chose the wrong option, we can do that. But we can just go in and save that, and it will update it. So now it's an Adobe Creative Cloud document. Now to turn it in, we can't turn in this Adobe Creative Cloud document. In fact, you need to turn it in as a PDF. So that's why we're saving it 2 times. The second time, we're going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to choose Save on our computer, on your computer. And so when we go to Save on your computer, you're going to see these Illustrator, we have the file name here. This is just in my Downloads folder, and that's fine. And then we're going to go to Save As Type, and we're now going to choose Adobe PDF. Okay, this is going to now allow it to be something we can submit onto Canvas. So I'm going to choose Adobe PDF, just click Save, and then another box is going to pop up. I'm just going to choose Save PDF, and now I can go onto Canvas and turn this in.